Alrighty, everybody, let's get the ball rolling with something that has caused quite a bit of controversy this weekend in our little fair community. Vaping conventions and what they have become. Specifically, what we'll be talking about this week is VapeCon. Being one of the volunteers of the event, I was privy to things that happened behind the scenes. One thing that was apparent to me was a lack of interest in the new people who might be making the switch over to vaping, and those advocating for a right to not only have these events, but vaping in general. I have to say, I was severely disappointed in VapeCon. Right now, I have a quote from a friend of mine, Dieter Sellers, who I got to catch up with while I was at the event, and I quote, "The entire time I was there, they were conducting events and constantly blaring through the loudspeakers. It was so loud you couldn't hear yourself think. I tried on 3 different occasions to talk with some of the vendors about products they were selling, and pretty much had to give up on all of them because we couldn't carry on a conversation." End quote. I spoke to many attendees over the weekend, and some of the things I've heard were a lack of morality, which we'll get into in a little bit, too many clouds and not enough advocacy. I did like that bit. I completely agree there. And something that we will be talking about in another segment in the show tonight, childlike marketing and labeling. Now, I want to make something very clear before we get into the question of morality. When it comes to these events, we are all adults. Now, I'm sure you can guess where I'm going with this. The scantily clad, quote-unquote, VapeCon girls. I have a quote here from an attendee who asked that his name not be used. He said, quote, "I am an adult. I have no problem with the way that they look or what they are doing, but there is a time and place for everything, and a large e-cig show is neither the time or the place." Unquote. In my opinion, what we have is a problem that is at the heart of every vaping debate that you can have, and that is a perception problem. The problem is that we have forgotten that there is more to the world than just us. There are people out there who, number 1, have never seen an e-cig, number 2, don't know what vaping is, and number 3, if they saw it, wouldn't understand it. You have to remember that there are people outside of the vapors. And for a while, I forgot that, because I wake up, I vape, I talk about vape, I get on Facebook, talk about vape, I talk to other vapors. We're connected in this inner circle, in this community with vaping, and I think what we have to realize is that we are not alone. There are other people who have no idea, and quite frankly, if they saw it, would be concerned. So my question is perception reality? In my opinion, it is. And we're going to get into this a lot more when we talk about the child appeal debates that have been going on with marketing and labeling, especially some quotes from the FDA. But I think what we have to realize is that perception is in fact reality. And if I was, and I saw this many times as a volunteer, I was running the front door at this event, and I saw this many times. People who were attending different conventions would walk by the room or walk past the front door and not only see this massive, massive cloud of vapor pouring out of the door, which is another problem that we'll get into, but a second problem is they would see these girls walking back and forth and wearing almost nothing. Now, I completely agree with non-named attendee that they are adults and we are adults, and that is what VapeCon chose to do with this event. But imagine this, and you don't have to imagine because it's true. One of these females walked out of the convention hall and into the main hallway, where there was a family of 4 and a mother who not only gasped, but started cursing because she was very, very offended at the fact that, number 1, this woman was not wearing near enough clothing to be in public, but number 2, that her children were exposed to it just because of this vape convention. Moving forward, my participation with anything VapeCon USA related will become very limited due to the fact that it was made clear to me that they could care less about advocacy for the sole reason that it does not make them money. It gets to me that events like this have kind of taken over the vapor scene as a whole when it comes to expos and conventions. Back in the day when we had events like Vape Bash and VaporCon as the main attractions for the convention scene, those were the days. 15 booths, maybe 20, a lot of talk of advocacy, innovation, creation, juice, all sorts of things. Now we have these giant expos taking up whole convention centers, and all we're seeing is the same rampant, run-of-the-mill, same old, hey, we've got a new juice, look at it, hey, we've got a new mod, it's the same thing that we had last year, just with a different color. It's getting out of hand. And the fact that we have these almost stripper-type like girls running around our conventions representing our industry when they could not know less about e-cigs is just baffling to me. I miss VaporCon, I miss Vape mustache. That is my final thought on the conventions as a whole. Well, folks, it seems that the mass exodus has begun. This week, in breaking news, Mount Baker Vapor, one of the largest e-liquid manufacturers in the United States and the world, not just the United States, but the world, has announced that they will be leaving their home state of Washington due to pressure from the state legislature. The legislation in question includes an up to 95% tax on e-liquid. Unfortunately, due to Governor Jay Inslee's anti-vaping stance, it has become... well, it's become quite a situation over there in Washington. Grant from Mount Baker Vapor had this to say, and I quote, "It is with some sadness but also great excitement that we would like to announce that Mount Baker Vapor will be transitioning all operations from our birthplace in Bellingham, Washington, to our new home in Mesa, Arizona. This move will be finished in fall 2015, and during that time we will strive to have zero interruptions to a normal ordering process over at mountbakervapor.com. He went on to say, as many of you know, the Washington legislature is currently considering two bills which aim to impose enormous taxes on the sale of vaping products and to ban online sales. Obviously, these proposed regulations are immensely harmful to our business. While they have not yet been passed, Governor Jay has continued to be outspoken on the need for regulation in the industry, and we believe he will persist in pushing this agenda for the rest of his term." End quote. Mount Baker Vapor has decided it is best for their company to move to a more business-friendly and financially viable state. To that end, Mount Baker Vapor has announced that they will be moving to their new headquarters in Arizona at the end of 2015. We at Vape Politics commend Mount Baker Vapor for their loyalty to their customers and their continued efforts to fight unfair taxation. I am always one to stand my ground, but I completely understand that sometimes you have to lose the battle to win the war. I do have a couple of questions for the guys in the comments down below. Number 1, do you agree with their decision? And number 2, do you think this is the beginning of a mass exodus from legislatively hostile states? Q&A with Vape Politics. Our first question tonight comes from Robert McCoy, and he asks us, what is fueling the FDA regulations? Now, Robert, that's a great question. And it brings me back to the point I made earlier tonight during the VapeCon segment, and that is that we have a perception problem. We as vapers sometimes forget that we are a minority in the public population, and most people are not aware of the intricacies of our industry or vaping in general. According to their What We Do page, the FDA's main job, and I quote, "The FDA is responsible for protecting the public health," end quote. They believe that it is in the best interest of the public health that electronic cigarettes be strictly regulated. And that brings me back to the point. We have a perception problem. The public sees us as an out-of-control market that is, number 1, marketing to their children, and number 2, promoting a product that has not had scientific testing done on it. Now let's remember something. This is the perception, the public perception. And I know not all people are like this, but this is what the large majority sees us as, and that is what the FDA is basing all of their stuff on. The thing we really have to look at is, how do we fix this problem? And I know that the question is, what is fueling the FDA regulations? And I'm going to get to that here in a second. But the question I have for us together is, how do we fix the problem? Now, I've mentioned earlier that, in my opinion, perception is reality. We don't change the reality until we change the perception. The FDA regulations are coming, and they are coming soon. And it's not going to nitpick. It's not going to choose specific people to be exempt. Everyone will be covered under the blanket. It is up to us to make sure that that blanket is comfortable and that the small business aspect of our industry survives. How do we do that? We're going to be getting into this more during the actual FDA segment, but one thing I think we need to do is we need to fix the 2 perception problems. Number 1, the child marketing. If you have been on Facebook in any related vape group this week, this has been the hot topic this week. Are we marketing to children? And if we are, how do we stop it? There have been many companies this week called out, and those people who have been called out are changing. I have not seen one company to come out this week and say, oh, well, we don't care. Almost every company that I've seen publicly called out by some very high ups in our industry are changing their ways. I saw it earlier today that one of the big controversial labels that have been passing around the internet, Gush, they are in fact changing their labeling and marketing. That's what we have to do. We need to pressure our e-liquid manufacturers to change the way that their labels look. We can have really good e-liquid without all the cartoony and unicorn and colorful marketing. The second perception problem we have to deal with is that the public believes that vaping is untested and unsafe. Now, this isn't true. We have an abundance of research and resources at our disposal. All we have to do is start sharing it. That is the number one reason why we have created this Vape Politics, not only media tool, but podcast for you, is so that you have access, easy access to this kind of information. As we build our website, we will be including a page specifically for links to all sorts of research documents that have been proven and tested. All you have to do is hit the share button. That's something that we can fix very easily. When someone says, I would never get into e-cigs, or I would never let a family member try an e-cig because they're unsafe and untested. Well, the truth is, with 3 simple articles, probably less than that, but 3 simple articles, you could change their mind like that. I've done it with near every family member I have, and trust me, I live in the South. All of my redneck family did not want to give up their Marlboro Reds, but it took time and it took effort, but it can be done. If I can convince all my redneck cousins that vaping is safe, you can convince anybody. Now, getting back to the question at hand, Robert's question was this: what is fueling the FDA regulations? And I'll bring us back to my first point, the perception problem. Now, I think we've laid out a couple of ways to combat the perception problem. Now, is this going to make the FDA go away, even if we fix these problems? No, the FDA is going to regulate, but it is up to us to combat the perception problems that we have so that they do not burn our industry to the ground. Thank you, Robert. Great question. Our second and final question for tonight's Q&A comes from Doug Hughes, and he asks, what do you think about the tidal wave of backlash we are seeing over e-liquid companies that use marketing that infringes on trademarks and or appeals to children? And Doug, it's funny because as I was preparing the answer for this question, I was using a quote that I found on Facebook, and it completely slipped my mind that the person I was quoting was also the person asking the question. So, Doug, you've kind of provided your own answer in the form of a quote, but I am going to read it just for the benefit of everybody listening at home. So here you go, Doug, the answer to your own question provided by you. And I quote, "Man, the rate at which this industry changes gears is giving me whiplash. Store owners refusing to carry e-liquids whose labels are appealing to children or infringe on another's trademark, and e-liquid companies changing their labels over the backlash. This is some crazy bleep." End quote. Now, coming from my perspective, I think that this is a great thing, seeing not only other e-liquid manufacturers, but figureheads within our industry that don't have anything to do with e-liquid really pushing for change. It's really exciting to see that. You are right, Doug. The industry is changing gears. I was speaking with one of my producers earlier, and we talked about the fact that in the last 7 days, we went from a non-regulated community to an elitist community full of people and large companies that are not only calling out other companies and requiring change, but we're seeing figureheads in the industry refuse to sell product that has nothing to do with e-liquid to stores that are carrying these bottles of e-liquid that could appeal to children. A prime example of this is Koga Cotton and Chris Johnson. We put this on the Vape Politics page earlier. Breaking news, Koga Cotton pulling out of stores that carry e-liquid that could be considered marketing to children. The following is a quote from Koga's Facebook page, and I quote, "We would like to inform the public of a recent change in policy here at Koga Japanese Cotton. We will no longer be distributing any product to those who choose to continue carrying e-liquids from manufacturers utilizing marketing materials featuring cartoon images and candy wrapper images appealing to youth. This also includes those who utilize stolen intellectual property to achieve their goals. In addition to this, we will no longer be attending any events that showcase these companies and allow their participation." End quote. Now, to finish up answering your question, Doug, I think the tidal wave is a great thing. I have never seen our community so unified and so on the same page when it comes to this change that needs to happen. So I'm excited to see where the tidal wave takes us, and I hope that you agree. Great question. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to move into our final segment of the night, and that is a topic that has electrified the entire vaping community as a whole. Now, over here at Vape Politics, our very first post to our Facebook page was breaking news about a closed-door FDA meeting last Thursday, which has caused all sorts of debate throughout the vaping community as a whole over the past week. Now, this post on the Vape Politics Facebook page has already been shared over 200 times, and at this moment has reached over 20,000 6,000 vapors. I will be reading you the quote that Jeremy Dollar gave us for this post, and then we will be hearing some excerpts from the ClickBang show last Tuesday from Dimitri, the Vaping Greek, and some stuff that went on during the show. Now, here's some information from the post from the Vape Politics Facebook page. Breaking news. Many of our influential leaders in the electronic cigarette industry attended a meeting in Washington, D.C. at FDA headquarters last week. The following is a quote from Jeremy Dollar of Good Life Vapor, who was among those invited to listen, and the following is a direct quote. If the vaping industry wants a voice with the FDA, marketing to kids in the form of representing childish branding has to stop immediately. If the majority won't comply, the FDA has no choice but to regulate without the industry guiding them with fair and balanced regulation. It's literally that simple. If a movement to eliminate these marketing tactics does not happen, the industry will fall to regulations that are unobtainable for any vendor. End quote. Now, we'll be looking into some more information about this meeting from the inside, thanks to Dimitri the Vaping Greek and his quotes from ClickBang this past Tuesday.
This meeting was solely on marketing to kids, by the way. This is the only thing that was discussed. I just want to put that out there. So, some manufacturers got together given that SPADA conference. It was great because there was a bunch of manufacturers there. So when the SPADA conference was over, we all got together. There was about 16, 17 manufacturers in a room at the hotel where the SPADA conference was going on. And we sat there for 4 hours, Russ, and I believe in 4 hours we were able to do more on an industry standard than what's been probably attempted in the last 5 years. And I'm including AMSA, which is the American E-Liquid Manufacturing Association. We sat down and we just basically talked. I mean, this is a huge problem. This is a problem that we need to address now as an industry. What can we agree with? Can we find some principles that we can agree with? Something that we can turn over to the FDA and say, hey, listen, it's not as you portray it to be. Is there an issue out there? Possibly. Is there some things that need to be changed? Possibly. But there are a lot of manufacturers that are trying to do the right thing. So basically, we came up with a set of principles, and the principles are very, very simple. And it wasn't a group that was behind this. It wasn't like SPADA or AMSA or anybody. Nobody was behind it. It was just these manufacturers showed up in a room and said, let's put this out there. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we can get some support, and then make it open source for everybody to join up. So basically, the principles are very, very easy. We do not sell to persons under the age of 18. We agree that all bottled e-liquids should have child-resistant, tamper-evident packaging. We agree that we should do everything in our power to limit online access, which I think is a big problem as well too right now, Russ. I think there's better ways out there to control the product from to age verify online. There's definitely better stuff out there that we can do, and we know that a lot of underage kids are getting stuff online.
Is that you see? I hadn't heard much about that. I do know it's pretty easy to just go ahead and go online. And
the number one, the data is there, and then you'll see when all these past studies come out from the FDA, you'll see all this stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, the FDA is doing the PATH study, which is 12 universities across the United States are participating. Each university is doing a different sector. And they're spending a lot of money, $275 million on this thing. It's a lot of money.
I think,
and part of
I was going to say, I think I know where it's going because I've never bought alcohol online, but I have bought snus online, and that was not pleasant. It was not a pleasant process. There's extensive verification that you have to do of your age in front of your computer, and then when they come, you have to be there and sign with ID. They can't just put it in your mailbox. So it's not pretty, and I don't really see another way that this could possibly go, which is really gonna take a lot. There
is a company out there, Aristotle, which actually it's a very legit company. They do a lot of the politicians' online databases for voters. But Aristotle has always been expensive. It's been one of these expensive companies that the vaping industry haven't been able to reach. And we kind of reached out to them and we said, can you create a platform where the vaping industry can utilize your security measures and make it affordable, make the entry affordable for vendors to come out. So that's in the works. We're trying to talk with them. It's about we're trying to bring it down to 5 to 10 cents a transaction. And they have levels, right? They have like 4 levels of security. Like first level is, where you put your information in and it goes to a government database, checks it. If that fails, you can go on to level 2, which is, you have to answer some questions like, what was your second car? Where did you live in 2003, and so forth and so forth. And if that fails, it goes to the scanning process where you scan your ID. And then I think number 4 level is where you're actually on a camera with a representative from the company, and you have to hold up your driver's license or something like that. I mean, it gets weird, but there is avenues out there that we can use. It's just something that we brought up because in the FDA's eyes, a program like Aristotle has validity. This is legit, right? So at least we're trying to show that we're trying to do something.
Yeah,
that can limit the online.
It's good that these things are being brought up to them, because if they're not, and if there are no suggestions given from the industry, they're just going to go by what they know, which is what they have for alcohol and tobacco currently, which is a very repressive, very not fun process. So it's good that these things are being brought up. At least it gives them some alternatives to consider. Ultimately, I think they're going to do whatever they want and whatever's easiest for them. But it's nice to help.
Sure. Well, that was the ultimate goal of this. Let's sit down. We're not getting any guidance from the FDA, which is a huge problem. And I'm going to touch on that here in a little bit. But this was just here. Here's what we came up with as manufacturers, and we want to get your feedback on it. And what do you feel? How do you feel about it? Anyway, let me finish up on these principles here, and I'll get to the meeting itself.
Yeah.
Age verification online, age verification retail, that we want to help, they're the ones the illegal manufacturers that distribute to retail stores to help the retail space card people that appear to be under 27 as required in most tobacco laws across the United States. Obviously, that might change depending on state to state. We also put in there marketing materials that, and this is a little bit tricky. We agree that marketing imagery, nomenclature, and product naming must not target persons under the legal age of purchase, and that is really vague, right? I mean, it's a line kind of issue, and I'll explain a little bit more. We also touch on flavorings because flavorings are extremely important. We believe that flavors play an important role in providing adult smokers an appealing and satisfying alternative to combustible tobacco. So we put that in there. It's not that anybody's against flavors. They're vital for the success of this product for adult smokers. And finally, it's an open invitation, and we encourage everybody to participate. I think that was the scope of the principles themselves. And listen, this was hard. It was a hard discussion because we don't know. Russ, nobody knows what that line is, like what line you don't cross on the label, because the FDA has given zero guidance. In fact, nobody's given guidance on this. This is something that the industry is going to have to figure out by themselves. So after this meeting was held, we opened up this within a smaller circle, trying to get about 25 manufacturers on board to sign this, upload their logos, and show that they support this. And we were successful. I mean, within a couple of days, we had 25 manufacturers that supported this and signed it. And I can go through the list here briefly if you want. Avail Vapor, Valentine Brands, Beard Vape, Boilermaker, Cosmic Fog, Firebrand, Five Ponds, Good Life, Hingham Hill, Midas Vape, Mr. E-Liquid, Moon Mountain, Mountain Oak Vapors, Mythic Haze Vaping, Enjoy, Oakshire Trading Company, Poet, Propaganda, Pure Tobacco, Space Jam, The Vapor Bar down there in Texas, Vapor Shark, Villain Vapors, and VMR Products. All these people signed and uploaded the logo, and I had that paperwork with me with all their signatures that have supported. And this represents a good portion of distribution of e-liquid in the United States. I mean, some big companies in there, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we got this signed, we got the paper signed, and then we submitted a request to sit down with the FDA. This happened 3 weeks ago.
Now, before we move on to the clip about the meeting itself, I just want to reiterate Dimitri's 4 points for you very quickly. Number one, that this conglomeration of manufacturers that met up 3 weeks ago, these are the 4 things that they agreed to as a group. Number one, we do not sell to under 18. Number 2, we all agree to child-proof cap and tamper-evident CLR bottles. Number 3, limit online access to avoid sales to minors. Now, I want to touch on this for a moment. Almost every vaping website that you can go to will have a little pop-up that says, are you above the age of 18? That's not going to be enough anymore. What they're saying here is that we're going to limit online access to avoid sales to minors, and that is going to require some pretty intense verification protocols, but we'll see more of that in the future as these e-liquid manufacturers instill some of these ideals. And number 4, age verification in retail stores. Across the United States, or at least in Georgia where I am, we have the WeID program, which states anyone that looks to be under the age of 27 cannot buy tobacco or alcohol without being ID. Now, what the group of manufacturers wants to do is instill a WeID type protocol in retail stores, and that will be a requirement for stores to carry their e-liquid. Now, moving forward, we are going to hear Dimitri talk about the meeting as a whole, and we are going to actually hear something that's kind of fun. I called into the show while it was being filmed live and was able to ask my question, the question was, how do we approach not only retail stores about these new ideals, but e-liquid manufacturers who may not have jumped on this idea yet? And Dimitri answers it quite well, and you'll hear that here in a minute.
So we got this signed, we got the paper signed, and then we submitted a request to sit down with the FDA. This happened 3 weeks ago, by the way. And we specifically wanted to talk about on this, the marketing to kids issue. The FDA, this is unheard of. The FDA, not only did they accept it, but they rushed it. So we actually got in before the FDA workshop started, which was last Friday. I didn't go to Miami. I went to the FDA. And we were able, within 3 weeks, again, not being represented by any association, just a group of manufacturers. Obviously, we put the invitation out there, anybody that wanted to attend from that 25 group. And I think we ended up being 12 manufacturers. We had a couple of FDA attorneys with us as well, that ended up going into this meeting in Washington with Mitch Zeller.
So let me, before you talk about, what does that mean? Because what you're talking about is no formal association just reaching out to the FDA and saying, hey, we want to talk. Now, if they had told you, okay, we'll put you on, if they had told you, hey, we'll put you on the books in 2 months, that probably would have been a fairly acceptable or expected answer. Yet they rushed and put you on in a fortnight. Why did they do that? What's the significance of that?
I think the significance of that is that they believe that we heard to what their concerns were. And this is what Mitch said at the meeting. He says it was commendable and surprising that you were able to get this done and listen to the concerns. The FDA is very, very tricky. They can't give a lot of information. You just have to listen to what they say and try to decrypt it. And we've felt that the marketing to kids is something that keeps bringing up and up. I was at the TMA in Williamsburg, Virginia 2 weeks ago, and David Ashley, which is the scientific director for the CTP, said the same thing. I mean, everything that he talked about electronic cigarettes always related back to kids. And for the FDA, it's a net assessment. Net assessment is looking at one side. How can this product benefit public health? And on the other hand, we have youth initiation. So it's a scale, right? It's a scale. So to them, I mean, this sounds really grim, but to them, they would rather have smokers die than have kids start. Does that make sense?
Sadly, yes.
So they net assess the product, right? And if they see youth initiation, they don't really care. To them, it's all about limiting this product to the kids. So the significance of this is that they have to answer to stakeholders. Anybody that requests a meeting, they have to sit down to them. To me, the surprising part was that it was not only accepted, it was accepted and we met with them before the FDA workshop, and we were attended by Mitch Zeller, David Ashley, which is the scientific director, and 7 people of their staff from various sectors of the CTP. So it kind of showed to me the other significance to me is kind of shows to me that this really is a problem. The marketing to kids is probably the number one problem with the FDA, as it was proven during our meeting with the stuff that was said. Mm-hmm. So they realize it's an issue. They realize that we're trying to do something about the issue, and I think that's why they accommodated to make it that fast, that we get there. We
have a caller in the 770 area code. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, guys. This is Noah with Vape Politics.
Hey, Noah. How you doing?
Good. This question is for the both of you, but coming from a consumer perspective, how do we approach shops who have not yet jumped in on this new idea, or e-liquid manufacturers who have not yet jumped in on this idea?
Great question. Go ahead, Dimitri.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I think we have the problem, Noah, and thanks for the question. And Russ, I think we have a problem that every time I've seen it. I've seen the reactions when I try to guide and give some information. We have this knee-jerk reaction, right? Because people feel like you're trying to regulate them. And this is not the case. I think to me, the answer is education. We need to educate them that there is a problem here. And once they realize that it's a problem, then they can make the educated decision if they want to contribute to the problem or if they want to help the problem. And we've done a poor job. And there's shop owners out there that don't know that this product will be regulated as tobacco. That is a reality. I mean, I'm sorry, that's the truth, right? So there's not enough education out there to the retailers and the distributors themselves. How many times have I heard, I'm friends with a lot of manufacturers, Russ. They come up to me and they say, how did I miss that? I got so busy, with work and these shows that are going on and all. They kind of miss the serious stuff that's going on in the back end. And I've attended every conference this year representing my company, and I've seen it firsthand. This is the problem. This is top priority for the FDA is the marketing to kids. And, I said it by myself all the past 6 months. Now there were 16 manufacturers in that room with me that all saw the same thing. So this is not just me saying it. You can reach out to anybody that was in that room, and you can ask them, and they'll tell you exactly the same thing. So educate them, tell them that there's a problem, but don't say, to me, I think it's wrong when we go and say, take this out, take this out, take it. No, just say this is the problem. You make the decision afterwards, what you want to carry or what you don't want to carry. But make that decision based on the facts and what we know is the issue right now. So education, Noah.
Now, as everybody is aware, with every argument, there is a counter argument. And on this week's ClickBang episode, there was a counter argument. Right now, I'm about to play for you a lively debate between Dimitri, Russ, and a caller into the show, Ed Wolf. And we will see what they have to say right now.
Yeah, hi, this is Ed Wolf calling. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Ed?
Nothing much. I kind of have real frustrations with some of the conversation here because the perception is wrong. And we as an industry are not marketing at all to underage kids. And when Dimitri says that it looks like we're doing exactly what the smoking companies, the tobacco companies did, that's absolutely the wrong thing to say, and it's absolutely incorrect. And people really should stop doing it because they're co-opting the arguments of the anti-vaping groups, and they're amplifying what the anti-vaping groups are saying by saying that. There's not a single vape shop that can make a good business and stay in business by selling to under 18-year-olds. There's not a single vape shop that is selling to under 18-year-olds because they will get shut down. And when they have all these different products like cotton candy and whatever on their shelves, they can't stock that and keep that inventory on their shelves and stay in business if it was just little kiddies buying it. So we need to stop co-opting and using the arguments of the anti-vaping groups, and it's just not the right thing to do.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, and it's whether I agree with it or not, that's fine. I totally respect it.
Well, I don't think.
Yeah,
but Ed, I don't think you disagreed with Dimitri based upon what you just said. You said we're all in agreement. There are no shops that we know of that are targeting children for sales. However, what you said, to use your words, Ed, to paraphrase Dimitri, is that it looks like that it's targeting to children, to an outsider, like, I don't know, somebody who's got a pen and a paper and is in elected office. It looks like it to them. And I don't blame them for thinking that that's what it looks like, because it's what it looks like. Whether or not it's the intent, it is what it looks like. I don't see how you're disagreeing.
Because it's not the truth. And it shouldn't be what it looks like, because it's a crafted argument by the anti-vaping group. What they do is they'll go to a 7-Eleven and take pictures of prepackaged disposables that are near the candy, and they'll say, look what they're doing. Those cigarettes are being marketed to kids. They can craft and manipulate the images and say what they want to say. And when vapers are now saying, just like Dimitri did, that it looks like we're doing it and we're doing it, and there's been enough times where he says, don't tell me we're not doing it, because we are. Because you need to stop doing that, because you're using the arguments and you're giving them ammunition. And today, or actually yesterday, at the vape FDA meeting, what UCSF brought out as marketing to kids had nothing to do with e-liquid. They brought out Hello Kitty drip tips, and they said those drip tips are marketing to kids. So if you keep on using their arguments, you'll lose because you can't go over their argument. The fact of the fucking matter is that the vape industry does not market to kids, and you need to stop saying it.
But we all agree.
Well, that's your opinion.
It's not my opinion. It's the fucking truth.
That makes no sense at all. What you're saying, honestly,
it's the truth, Dimitri.
It really doesn't, because I'm telling you that don't listen to me. Listen to the manufacturers that sat in that room. We're talking about the FDA and what their number one issue was, and we heard it right from the mouth of Mitch Zeller. So if you're telling me that we're using the tactics that the antis are using, you totally missed the entire point of this conversation. This is actually a great window of opportunity for the industry to correct the issues that it has, and you're telling me that we're giving the wrong message. That makes no sense at all. It really doesn't.
I'm saying that you are giving the wrong message when you are saying that the vape industry is using marketing to kids as a business model. And you just said that we look like and we're doing what the tobacco industry did in the 50s and 60s and whatever not.
If you don't see it out there on the market right now, Ed, you haven't been paying attention to the last products that come on the market the last 6 months.
So how are you going to fix the Hello Kitty? How are you going to fix the Hello Kitty drip tips? How are you going to fix any of them?
Stop selling them, for crying out loud. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Ed.
Have you ever watched like Vapors TV or anything like that? There is a large group of people, the young millennials, that go and are interested in this type of marketing. Just because a kid is interested in something that adults do does not mean that the people selling the product are marketing to kids. Are you going to say that Anheuser-Busch, when they do their Super Bowl commercials with Clydesdale horses and puppies, are marketing beer to kids?
The alcohol argument is moot, Edward. Come on, I thought you were better than that. Really.
Ed,
the alcohol is completely irrelevant with our conversation.
Ed, let me ask you a question, Ed. So here's my stance is that I think that I wish we didn't have this mountain of legislation that was about to hit. I really wish we didn't, because to me, I do think that people should have their First Amendment right to advertise their product however they want. Unfortunately, the world we're living in, we do have this coming, and now we know, unless you think Dimitri's a complete liar at what happened at that meeting and the other 20 whatever manufacturers that were there, it is their number one issue. They're going to come down on this hard. So my solution as a consumer, I'm not going to buy the stuff, and I'm going to tell other people, don't buy it, because it's going to hurt us in the long run. What's wrong with that argument? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that way that I choose to conduct my purchases?
There's nothing wrong with the way that you are going to do your purchases. That's absolutely fine. But you can't try and assume that the entire industry is going to toe in line, because if you go to the city council, they'll pull out a bottle from somebody, and they'll say, look at this bottle. That means they're marketing to kids. And if you as an industry are saying, well, those things are marketing to kids clearly, then it becomes a problem. You have to deal with the facts, and ignorance of the facts doesn't make it any better, because our industry, the vapor industry, does not sell to kids. We don't do it.
There's always going to be a market that's going to create those products. That's not the point what we're trying to do. We're trying to tell the FDA to not put restrictive rules on this product, to allow those responsible manufacturers that want to sell their product legitimately in this market and not turn it over to big tobacco. It's very, very simple. Yes, there will be a black market. Will it be the guy making juice that's going to put that label on there? Absolutely. There's always going to be that. But if that's what things go by, we sat in that room, and Mitch Zeller specifically said that the number one issue is marketing to kids, right? So what are we going to do to fix it? That is my question. What are you going to do to fix it? Instead, all you're doing is you're saying that we're putting out the wrong message, a message that has been carried very strong, not by me, because I think this is personal with me, but this message has been carried on by a lot of people. So obviously the problem is there. Whether you want to accept it or not, whether you want to admit it or not, that's fine. You have your right. You have your opinion. But if you're going to put your opinion, you need to put the facts behind it as well, too. And you're not doing that.
Yeah, the Family Control and Prevention Act the Tobacco Control Act is aimed at marketing, and it's aimed at marketing to kids. They are going to regulate it. That is the basis of how the law was adopted. Yes, absolutely, underage tobacco use is the mandate of the law. But you can't just go off the arguments and say that we're doing it because it'll never stop. I'm saying that the regulation is coming from them. There's a whole bunch of different things. It's not just going to be about marketing to kids. And then where do you go next? Like VapeCon Chattanooga had a stripper contest. Now, is that something that should be stopped?
It was horrible. But it was horrible, but that's not the issue here. We're not talking about adultery. We're talking about child-friendly labels and marketing to kids. And even though you heard Jeremy Dollar even say it earlier, his juice was called Panty Dropper. What does that have to do with kids? And it got called out by Mitch Zeller. What are you talking? I mean, you're making no sense at all.
I believe that the products should be labeled well. They should be done correctly, and they should have Prop 65 warnings. They should have all that stuff. They should have websites on them. Ingredient listing. All that stuff should happen. But when anybody, and don't make it about just yourself, Dimitri, when anybody is saying that we're marketing to kids, it's just a big problem because the anti-vaping groups will take it and run with it, and we will never be self-regulated. The regulation is going to come from the FDA. That's what the whole deeming regulation is about. It's coming. You're not going to just be able to say, oh, look, we changed our labels. We're not doing it anymore. FDA, go away. The FDA is here.
Thank you for your call, Ed. I disagree, but value your opinion. So thank you for calling in, sir.
Wow. That escalated quickly. Well, now that we've had our fun, let me ask a question, and you can post your answers down in the comments below. What side are you on? Are you on the side of, yes, I believe this is a great opportunity, and you're going to pressure your e-liquid manufacturers to change their ways for the better? Or are you on the side of, well, we're screwed anyway, so it doesn't really matter? That is the question, and I am completely willing and open to hear all sides of the debate. If you haven't been watching our Facebook page, this debate has been all over it, especially on that first FDA post that we talked about. There have been many different views, opinions, sides. Now, it's time to share yours. Thank you all for joining me on Vape Politics. This has been a wonderful first episode, and I hope that you learned something. If you did, pop down into the comments below and give us a nice little review, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for everyone here at Vape Politics. This is Noah Richardson, signing off. Vape Politics Radio, covering calls to action all around the country, breaking industry news, all things FDA, event coverage, and answering your questions here at home and abroad. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at facebook.vapepolitics.com and go over and give our Twitter a follow at twitter.vapepolitics.com.